Hello and welcome to The Healing Way. My name is Richard Clark, and on this video I'll be continuing talking about the personal Higgs field and how it works on us. Right, now then, it's getting very complicated. It started complicated and now it's got even more so. After the last video, I pretty much got stuck. There was a log jam. So I did what I always do when I get stuck. I went and talked it over with my friend Gavin. And Gavin came up with some interesting views. He's very insightful about what I'm doing, and the good thing is he's usually in the same place. So I don't have to go through hours of saying, well, there's this and this. I can just say, well, what's happening here? The situation was I couldn't understand why energy was flowing in and out of the personalised or the personal Higgs field. It was flowing from a human being out into their own personal Higgs field that the brain has created, and then flowing back. I couldn't see why that was going on. And the other thing was that the personalised Higgs field seemed to link up in a generational thing. There is this tremendous flow of energy, if energy is the right word, experience, power. There's a volume, a mass, a volume that passes down in a line. It's usually in a line. The Higgs fields line up in a generation way, so I'm talking families now. Family, a descent within family of the life experiences of the family members. It's not so much sideways, it doesn't so much go between sisters and brothers. It goes more down the line, parents to children. So there's this flow coming down the line, and there's this interaction from the individual to the Higgs field and back in. So I said to Gavin, what's going on? And he said, the key word is restore. The key word is restore. And I sat there for about 2 hours on this one. And slowly a bit more revealed itself. The human energy flows into the Higgs field to be restored, to be invigorated or reinvigorated. So there's two things going on, or three things going on. One is the storage of the experiences, which is hard stored, hard coded as it were, it can't be changed. The archive of the human experience. There's that. Then there's this flow, a descent flow down through the generations. Then there's this interaction between the Higgs field and the human being, the personalised Higgs field and the human being. And what it looks like is it's reinvigorating the energy. It's like worn out, worthless energy flows into the field, it's reinvigorated and passed back. Now, where does that reinvigoration come from? Well, it seems to me it's coming from what's being passed down. There's the modern approach is to recycle things, and this is what it looks like. It looks like energy is being recycled. We have plastic, we have cardboard, we have metal, and it's recycled. We put it into bins, and then it's made into something else. And it seems to me this is a process of recycling. It's very similar. Our energy flows into the field, worthless energy, worn out energy, if you can have such a concept. Energy that's lost its vigour, let's say, and then it's returned, it's invigorated within the field and returned back to the human being. And that invigoration seems to come from what's being passed down, what's coming into the field from previous generations. That is a bit of a jump, I have to admit. It's trying to perceive these things, it's a reach. It's on the edges of my abilities, to be honest. Which doesn't mean to say it can't be continued, it just needs to be done carefully, step by step, small piece at a time, gradually working out what is going on. That's why when it's a perceptive thing, quite often as it does come into more clarity, previous videos will be maybe talking about these things in a slightly different way, because I've got a better perception, or a better perception of them has come. Now this is a process that's going on. There's two processes, and the processes need to be studied rather than just jumping in with whatever, some healing technique. This is a process that needs a great deal of study, because interfering with processes is something that we all do, and this is another of Gavin's ideas about, he was talking and making a point about process. Life is a process, and the way it's being approached here with these videos, with these healing methods, is not to interrupt the process, but to try and steer the process out. See, the way it's done at the moment, with so much medicine, so much therapy, the approach is to interrupt the process. There's a process going on that is interrupted, so there's intervention, and then the process is stopped, but it seems quite often it goes much deeper and then reappears in a different form. I'm not criticising that, it's just being held up as comparison. I'm not criticising it, because quite often these ways get results. You know, if you're ill and the doctor gets rid of it, great, you're happy, the doctor's happy. But what we're doing here is not to interrupt the process, not to act as an intervention, but to steer it out in a different direction. We want it out of the body, yes, but we want it to finish its process, or to complete its process somewhere else. We just want it away. We're not trying to kill it, pervert it, change it, interrupt it, or do anything really. We just want rid of it. And to get rid of it, you need to let it reach its conclusion. It's much more in the way of working with things. Anyway, yeah, perceive how they work and then work with them. Okay, so going back to the Higgs field, the personalised Higgs field. From here, there are the two questions are still baffling. One is all the confusion that's in the Higgs field. That hasn't gone away. That, I think, is a major factor of diseases or illnesses such as dementia. There's confusion, and quite often, I mean, it's easy to say, well, the brain's damaged, or there is something not working in the brain properly, and that leads to the confusion. That's an easy one to go for, but I don't think it's correct. I think the confusion is coming from outside. It's for some reason there's confusion in the Higgs field. We've fed confusion into it, and the confusion is being reinforced back. I'm not at all sure why that's going on, but if there's one thing I could point to, if you said to me, what is the main thing you perceive in the personalised Higgs field, I would say 9 times out of 10, it's confusion. There is massive amounts of confusion in the personalised Higgs field. Now, the other thing I wanted to look at was what I term the death power. And the death power, I find, is frightening. Not because it's death, it's just the presence of it. The presence of the death power. It is a frightening thing. And for some reason, this is again, if you said to me, what is it that's coming down through the generations? What is this power or this experience or this flow that's flowing down from parents to children through the Higgs field, through the personalised Higgs fields, which seem to be linked in a family way? I would say it's the death power. Now then, let's talk about the death power. I don't know why, but the death power always seems to associate itself with cancer. And this is one of the huge problems with cancer, is the associated power of it. It's not that the disease or the growths, I'm talking about cancer as growths now, the tumours. It's not that is the killer. The killer, to me, is the power that lies behind it, the death power. And it only associates, in my experience, with cancer. I haven't seen it with anything else. I've worked on hundreds of different illnesses over the years. In depth, not just 10 minutes, but hours and hours and hours. And it seems to me that the death power only associates with cancer. Now, I'll probably have to do a lot more videos talking about all these different aspects, but depending on how much the power is in this universe, it would... It's difficult. If you see another person, you see them fully. You interact with them, you can perceive them, you can feel what they're feeling or see what they're doing. That's because they are fully in this universe. You can touch them. Now, with some of these powers, they are not fully in this universe. And the death power, all these powers that I talk about, all these energies, a lot of them are only partially in this universe. So they can only, physical technique only partially works on them, depending how much is actually in this universe. Depends on how effective, like with me for instance, my healing methods, energy-based methods, how effective they are. I'll give you an example. Arthritis is very similar power behind it to cancer, and I've said this before. Now, when I use Healing with Energy Step 1, it's very effective on arthritis because the type of energy that needs to come out of a person is a physical energy that can be got hold of and then can be extracted. This is also true of asthma, migraines, allergies, a lot of these conditions. They're all depression, they're all of the same order. They're energies of this universe. And as a result, Healing with Energy Step 1 is quite effective. Now, I had an opportunity to work on somebody who was just developing cancer. She'd just been diagnosed. She actually had another illness. And the doctors put her on immune suppressant drugs. And they said to me, there's a 2% chance you will get cancer. And she did. She fell in that category. Now, what I saw, she told me, I was working on, and she said, well, I've now been told I've got cancer. And I was looking. And what I saw was these dark particles coming out of her ankles. It was like a flow of dark particles coming out of the ankles, which I later took to mean the entrance to the body, or they were being manufactured in the bone marrow. So I immediately used what I had at the time, which was Healing with Energy Step 1. This is going back about 20 years, and it was right at the beginning of my journey with all this. And it didn't work. It didn't work because the power of the materials used for Healing with Energy Step 1 could not grip the cancer, or the energy of the cancer, or whatever it was, whatever these dark particles were that seemed to be cancer. It was like, what it reminds me of is there's a machine you see at fairgrounds, and it's a box with all prizes at the bottom with a hook, a grab over the top, and you put your coin in and you steer the grab out and you steer it across, and wherever it stops it goes down and grips a prize and then lifts up, and as it lifts up, you've probably seen this, the grab just slides off the prize, and this is exactly what was happening with the cancer. The power would reach out and slide off. So what I'm getting at with all this is that the cancer, the energy of the cancer, or these particles, whatever they were, are not fully in this universe. They're powerful, they have a powerful effect on people in this universe. It's a killer. But that's why it's so difficult to beat. Because what you're trying to beat isn't fully here. What I'm trying to beat isn't fully here. So the answer is simple. I can't do it here, I have to go there. Or rather, the method needs to go there. We need to beat it on its home ground. But I'm convinced that an approach to cancer, and it's too early for me on this, I need a lot more study, a lot more build-up, a lot more groundwork to prepare. But I'm convinced at the moment that the approach to cancer is to cut off the source of its power, to cut off what sustains it, yeah, to get rid of its strength, whether to cut it off, to somehow drain it away, whatever it is. That, I think, is going to be a future approach to this, because what is going on is it's coming to us. So I think the death power is coming to us from the personalised Higgs field. And this is why you get cancer. It runs in generations, because it passes down through the generations. It's a very fluid type energy, this death power. And it seems to me that cancer is probably, it's the only one that does this. If you get a disease that runs down through the generations, it's because the energy is very fluid and being passed down through the personalised Higgs fields, which we draw from. Right, now the death power is becoming very scary. Why is that? Well, this needs careful study as well. I haven't reached any firm conclusions on this, but it seems to me that death is, how can I put this, a regeneration. It's a regeneration. It's a reinvigoration. Yeah. The reason why the death power is used by the Higgs field to reinvigorate our energy is because it is a reinvigorating field or power or energy. Right. Most people have got the idea that death is just, that's it, it's gone. Forget that. Death is the reinvigoration, where we are revitalised. Whatever we are, when we pass from body, when the body goes, what's left is revitalised by death, by the death power. So this, I think, is why in life we're being revitalised. This death power is a revitalising power. So what's going wrong? Why has the death power become a killer or a means for illnesses to pass through? There's one other thing I'd like to say about one of the comments Gavin made, and this is full credit to Gavin. I mean, he always tries to put in what he can. And one of the things he said, I said, what is cancer? And he said it's evolution. And I'm starting to barely grasp this concept. of evolution. As I say, it's far too soon for me with this sort of thing. I need to build up to it. Evolution. Because evolution is change. It's tremendous change. It's tremendous energy. And it could be seen that these growths are evolution, is a process of change, of evolving to something else, or changing to something else. And again, we're back to a process. We're back to a process. Now, one thing I want to go back to the death power and talk about this. Why has the death power become so dangerous? Because death is a very emotional term. As soon as you say death, people think, oh, I'm in the ground, or there's nothing, or I go off to paradise or heaven or nirvana, whatever it is. Everyone has this concept of death. But all I want to say on this is its natural state, the natural field of death, is when we are without a body, for want of a better way of putting it, is vitality, is to reinvigorate. For whatever comes next, we need to be reinvigorated. Now, why has that reinvigoration become so deadly, so dangerous? Now, the only thing I can think is people are not dying natural deaths anymore. We're not dying peacefully, happily, contentedly at the end of a good life. When a person dies, this power goes, the power of death and their last, whatever they're feeling at the end of their life, goes into the personalised Higgs field. And it seems to me that that is held there and transferred down, or at least there's a flow down. That the Higgs field fields that it draws from can use to invigorate the energy that comes from the human in later generations. Now, as I say, what we've had in the last 100 years are world wars. Wars are no longer armies fighting it out on fields, 200 or 300 or 1,000 each side. Now it's mass slaughter in the millions. You know? And where there aren't wars, there's genocide. There's so many people now dying in horrific ways, and there has been for the last 100 years. And while I'm not putting this forward as how I see it, it's just a suspicion that there's far too much horrific death. People are blown up, people are murdered, people are slaughtered, people are poisoned, people are shot. You know, it just goes on and on and on. And the last moments, those horrific last moments, are going into the Higgs field, are contaminating the death power. And that's what I think is happening. The death power itself has, instead of being, or as well as being a reinvigorating field, has become contaminated by the true horror of death. Or, yeah, it's not the true horror of death, but the horror of death, the worst kinds of death, is being captivated in the death field, in the death power. Yeah, okay. So, all I can say is a lot of credit to Gavin. He unlocked the logjam, and a lot of what he said I'd forgotten, but it's come out as I've been videoing. Now, he also said you need to revisit copper. He said a lot of the answers you're looking for you'll get through the study of copper. So that's where I'm going probably next. I've been using copper. I used it in Healing with Energy Step 4, and I thought that was it, done and dusted. but it's not. There's a lot more to copper than what was first realised. It was overlooked. He said you need to revisit copper. A lot of the answers you're looking for will come from that. Okay, so I'm going to do a prep video on copper. I've got some ideas on it. And yeah, once again, thanks Gav. If you read this, if you watch this, we all owe you one, mate. Well done. If you've watched this, thank you very much. It's much appreciated. And I'll see you on the next video. I hope, or you'll see me. Thank you.